The sun was already high in the sky when Maya pushed her old wooden cart through the busy trading square. Her hands were rough and dry, but she did not mind. The square was loud. Women called out their prices, children ran between the stalls, and the smell of grilled meat and warm spices floated through the hot air. Maya was pregnant, almost 8 months along, and her large belly made everything harder, but she refused to beg. Every morning she came to the square and helped sellers or shoppers carry their heavy bags and boxes for a small payment. Some people felt sorry for her, others made rude comments, but Maya kept working with quiet strength. With the small amount of money she earned, she bought food, usually bread or plain rice, and sometimes a bar of soap to wash her clothes behind the old shed at the edge of the square where she slept. It was not an easy life, but it was hers. By the middle of the afternoon, the heat was strong. Maya stopped near a wall to rest for a few minutes. As she wiped the sweat from her face, she noticed an elderly woman sitting on a low bench not far away. The woman looked confused. Her clothes were clean but dusty, and her hand shook slightly as she held a small cloth bag in her lap. Maya watched her for a while, but said nothing. People often came and went at the trading square. Maybe she was waiting for someone. But as the hours passed and sellers began to packing up their stalls, Maya saw that the old woman had not moved. The crowd was getting smaller, and the noise was fading, but the old woman was still sitting there, alone. Something about the way she sat so still bothered Maya deeply. She walked over and gently said, "Excuse me, ma'am, are you waiting for someone?" The old woman looked up, startled. Her voice was soft and tired. "I don't know anymore," she said. "I came from my village to visit my son who lives here in the city, but I fell asleep on the bus. When I woke up, my phone was gone. I cannot reach him. I do not know where he lives, and I have been sitting here since this morning." Maya's heart felt tight. "You have been sitting here all day?" The woman nodded slowly. "Yes, dear, and I have not eaten anything since yesterday." Maya pressed her lips together. She only had a little money left from her day's work, just enough for one meal, but when she looked at the thin, tired woman, she could not walk away. "Please come with me," Maya said kindly. "Let me get you something to eat." They walked to a small food stall nearby. The warm smell of rice and thick stew filled the air. Maya ordered 2 plates and handed one to the woman. "Here," she said. "Eat, you will feel better." The woman's eyes filled with tears. "You are so kind, my child. Thank you so much." They ate without talking much. Maya did not say it out loud, but this was her only meal of the day, too. When they finished, the sky had begun to grow dark. The old woman looked worried. "I do not know where I will sleep tonight," she said softly. Maya thought for a moment. "Maybe we can go to the police station nearby. They might help you contact your son." The old woman nodded with hope, and together they walked to the station. But when they arrived, one of the officers looked at them. An old woman in dusty clothes and a pregnant girl covered in market dust. He waved them away without even listening. "We're busy. Go somewhere else," he said roughly. Maya tried to explain. "Sir, please, she is lost. She just needs a little help." "I said leave," the officer snapped. The old woman bowed her head in shame. Maya felt anger rise in her chest, but she gently took the woman's hand. "It is okay," she said quietly. "Let us go. We will find another way." They walked back out into the evening air. The street lights blinked on. Somewhere far away a baby cried, a car horn sounded, and the air carried the faint smell of coming rain.
Maya's back ached from walking all day, and her belly felt very heavy. "I know a place where we can stay," she said softly. They turned down a quiet path at the back of the trading square. There, under a broken roof made of old wooden boards and rusted iron sheets, stood a small shed. Maya pushed the door open. It made a creaking sound. Inside was a thin mat on the floor, a small plastic bucket, and a lantern that gave out only a weak yellow light. "This is where I live," Maya said, smiling shyly. "It is not much, but it keeps the rain out most nights." The old woman looked around slowly, her eyes becoming wet. "You live here?" Maya nodded. "Yes, but it is safe." "My dear," the old woman whispered, "I cannot take your space." Maya shook her head. "You will rest here tonight, please." She spread one of her extra pieces of cloth on the floor for the woman to sleep on. Then she brought out a small container with some leftover rice. "I kept a little. Please eat." The old woman hesitated. "What about you?" Maya smiled. "I already ate earlier." It was a lie, but she did not want the woman to feel guilty. As the old woman ate slowly, she watched Maya adjust the lantern and sit against the wall, rubbing her belly in gentle circles. "What is your name, dear?" "Maya." The woman smiled softly. "You are a good girl, Maya. My son must meet you someday. You have a very kind heart." Maya looked down, feeling a little shy. "I just did what anyone should do." The woman shook her head. "No, not everyone would. Many people see others in pain and simply walk away. But you did not." Maya smiled quietly. She had not been called kind in a very long time. Outside, rain began to fall softly, tapping against the iron roof. Maya placed a small bucket under the leak in the corner, then sat down again near the woman. "Mama," she said gently, "do you ever feel like life is unfair?" "Yes, my child, but I have learned that even in the hardest times, there are still moments of light. And you, dear girl, are one of those moments of light." Maya blinked back tears. "Sometimes I wonder if God remembers me." "He does," whispered the woman. "He never forgets. He just waits for the right time." Maya placed her hand gently on her belly. "I hope he remembers my baby, too." "He already has," the woman said softly. Those words felt like a promise. As the rain fell harder outside, they curled up on the floor together, sharing the one small blanket. The old woman whispered a quiet prayer, giving thanks for the girl lying beside her. And for the first time in many long nights, Maya fell asleep with peace in her heart. When Maya opened her eyes the next morning, sunlight was already coming in through the cracks in the roof. For a moment, she forgot where she was. Then she saw the old woman sleeping peacefully beside her, her face calm and soft in the morning light. Maya smiled. It felt good to wake up next to someone. Not because she was lonely, but because it reminded her that she still had a heart big enough to care for another person. She stood up quietly, stretched her tired back, and rubbed her belly. Her baby kicked gently, as if saying good morning. "Good morning to you too," she whispered. Outside, the square was starting to wake up. Sellers were setting up their tables, children were sweeping the ground, and the smell of fresh bread and hot tea drifted through the morning air. Maya walked to a small stall nearby and bought 2 cups of tea and a few pieces of bread with the last of the coins she had. When she came back, the old woman was awake, sitting up and fixing her scarf. "Good morning, ma'am," gasped Maya with a warm smile. "I brought us breakfast." The old woman looked surprised. "You did not have to, my dear." Maya sat beside her. "I wanted to. You need your strength today." They ate together, the sounds of the square growing louder around them. After a few bites, the old woman said softly, "Thank you, Maya, for everything. I truly do not know what I would have done without you yesterday." Maya smiled shyly. "You do not need to thank me, ma'am. I'm just glad you're okay." The woman nodded thoughtfully. "You remind me of my son. He is close to your age, perhaps a little older, kind and hardworking. If only I could see him today." Maya placed her hand gently on the woman's arm. "We will find him, I promise."
After breakfast, they made their way to the bus terminal where the woman said she had arrived the day before. The road was busy and full of noise, engines revving, bus conductors shouting for passengers, and people rushing in every direction. Maya helped the woman walk carefully through the crowd until they reached the exact spot where she had been dropped off. A few drivers recognized her immediately. "Ah, Grandma, someone was looking for you yesterday," said one of the drivers with a wide smile. "A man came here asking if anyone had seen an older woman from the village. He looked very worried."
The woman's eyes lit up at once. "That must be my son," she said, her voice shaking with hope. "What did he look like?" Maya asked quickly. "He was tall," the driver said, thinking carefully, "wearing a white shirt, driving a dark blue car. He left his phone number and said he would come back again today." The old woman pressed her hands together and whispered, "Thank God." Maya smiled widely. "Then let us wait. I am sure he will come soon." They found a bench near the terminal and sat down. The woman held her bag close, her hands trembling a little with a mix of relief and excitement. For the first hour, Maya stayed with her, talking lightly to pass the time. But when her stomach growled, she remembered she still needed to earn money for the rest of the day. "Ma'am," she said gently, "I will go back to the square and work for a few hours, so I can buy us something to eat later. Do not worry, I will come back." The woman looked at her with concern. "You have done enough, my dear. You should rest." Maya smiled. "I will rest after, I promise." The woman sighed, but nodded. "All right, child. I will be right here when you return." Maya squeezed her hand and walked away, pushing her old cart back toward the square. At the square, the day had grown hotter. Maya got to work, helping a vegetable seller move heavy baskets of tomatoes to a nearby storage area. Her arms hurt, her feet ached, but she did not complain. Every small coin she earned meant one more meal she would not have to skip. She thought of the old woman waiting at the terminal and prayed silently that her son would come soon. Meanwhile, back at the bus terminal, the sound of a car horn cut through the midday noise. A dark blue SUV pulled up slowly, clean and shiny, standing out completely from the dusty surroundings. The door opened, and a tall man in his early 30s jumped out. He looked around desperately, his eyes searching every face in the crowd. Then they landed on the old woman sitting quietly under the small shade of a tree near the bench. "Mother!" he shouted. The woman looked up, her eyes going wide. "Nathan!" He ran to her, dropping to his knees beside her and holding both her hands tightly in his. "Oh, thank God! I have been looking for you everywhere." She began to cry. "My son, I thought I would never find you. My phone was stolen on the bus and I didn't know how to reach you. I was so frightened." Nathan pulled her into a firm hug. "It's okay, Mama. You're safe now. That's all that matters." When they finally pulled apart, she smiled through her tears. "You wouldn't believe who helped me, Nathan. A young girl named Maya. She took care of me last night when no one else would. She gave me food and a place to sleep." Nathan's expression became serious. "Where is she?" "She went back to the square to make some money," his mother explained. "She said she would come back later. I wanted you to meet her." Nathan stood up and looked toward the direction of the market square. "Then we will wait for her. I want to thank her properly." But as time passed, the sun climbed higher and the old woman began to yawn heavily. 2 long, stressful days had taken their toll on her. Nathan noticed immediately. "You are tired, Mama. You should rest now. I will come back and look for the girl." She hesitated. "But I wanted to thank her in person." He smiled gently. "We will find her, I promise. Right now, you need to go home, rest, take a warm shower, and eat a proper meal." The woman finally agreed. "All right, my son, but promise me you will come back." "I promise," he said, helping her carefully into the car. As they drove away, she turned and looked out the back window, scanning the faces on the road one last time. Somewhere out there was the girl who had shown her more kindness than she had expected from any stranger.
About an hour later, Maya came hurrying back to the bus terminal, carrying 2 small plates of food she had bought from a stall. She smiled as she approached the bench, but her smile faded slowly when she looked around. The woman was gone. Maya asked a nearby driver, "Excuse me, have you seen the old woman who is sitting here?" The man nodded. "Yes, her son came to pick her up. They left a while ago." Maya blinked. Her son found her? "Yes," the driver said. "A tall man in a dark blue car. He looked very happy to see her." Maya's heart lifted. That was wonderful. She looked down at the 2 plates of food in her hands and smiled sadly. She gave one to a young boy sitting by the roadside who looked like he hadn't eaten in a while. "Here, you can have this." Then she walked back toward the market square, eating her own plate slowly as she went. She thought about the old woman and hoped she was somewhere warm and safe with her son by her side. When she reached her shed, the sky had already turned deep orange with the setting sun. She sat down on her mat, rubbing her belly softly. "Looks like Grandma found her son," she whispered to her baby. "That makes me happy." She smiled faintly, but her eyes filled with tears. Part of her felt alone again. The shed seemed emptier now without the sound of another person breathing nearby. She lay down thinking about the warmth in the old woman's eyes, about how she had held her hand in the dark and told her that God never forgets. Maya closed her eyes and whispered, "Maybe she is right." Outside, the square grew quiet as night settled over the city. Far away, in a large house filled with warm lights, the old woman said a long, heartfelt prayer for the girl who had saved her. She didn't know it yet, but that prayer was about to change Maya's life completely and forever.
The next morning began just like every other morning for Maya. She woke up before the sun rose, the air still cool and quiet around her. Her small shed smelled faintly of damp wood and smoke from the food stalls nearby. She sat up slowly, rubbing her belly as her baby gave a soft kick. "Good morning, little one," she whispered. "It is another day." She splashed some water on her face, tied her hair up, and pushed her old wooden cart out toward the square. She was ready to work again, to survive one more day at a time. But that day was not going to be an ordinary one. By mid-morning, the square was already alive and buzzing. Sellers called out prices, shoppers argued playfully over deals, and the air was warm with the smell of fruit and fried bread. Maya was in her usual corner, helping a woman move large baskets of green vegetables, when the sound of a powerful car engine made everyone turn their heads. A shiny, dark blue SUV rolled slowly into the square, its tires crunching over the uneven ground. People stepped aside and whispered as they stared. Expensive cars never came to this part of town, especially not ones that looked so clean and costly. The car stopped right in front of Maya. Her heart skipped a beat. The back door opened, and when she saw who stepped out, her mouth fell open in shock. It was the old woman, but she looked completely different. Clean, dressed in a fine, beautifully embroidered outfit, her silver hair neatly pinned up. She was smiling warmly, and standing tall beside her was a well-built man in a neatly tailored suit. "Maya," the old woman called out, her voice full of joy and warmth. Maya stood frozen for a moment, not sure what to do. She quickly wiped her dusty hands on her dress and hurried forward. "Ma'am, you look well." The woman smiled and held both her hands. "Because of you, my dear. This is my son, Nathan." Nathan stepped closer, his expression calm but filled with deep gratitude. "You must be Maya. My mother told me everything. Thank you for looking after her when no one else would." Maya felt her cheeks grow warm. "It was nothing, sir. I simply could not leave her alone." Nathan shook his head insistently. "It was not nothing. You showed her real kindness when others turned away. Please let us thank you properly." Before Maya could say a word, the old woman said firmly, "Come with us, Maya. I will not accept no as an answer."
Maya blinked in disbelief. "You mean come with you in the car?" "Yes, dear, get in," the old woman said with a bright smile. People around the square were staring now, whispering and pointing. Maya hesitated for just a moment, then nodded slowly. She left her cart beside a seller she trusted and followed them to the car. As she sat down on the smooth leather seat, she felt like she had stepped into a completely different world. The car smelled of fresh flowers. Everything inside it gleamed and shone. She looked down at her old dusty dress and felt slightly out of place, but the old woman reached over and squeezed her hand gently. "You are safe, Maya," she said. Maya smiled softly. "Thank you, ma'am." The drive took almost an hour. They passed tall buildings, quiet, leafy streets, and then entered a wide road lined with large trees and beautiful houses. At the end of the road stood a large, white mansion with tall iron gates and flowers blooming all along the walls. Maya stared out the window, her eyes wide. "This is your home?" she asked quietly. Nathan smiled. "It is ours," he said simply. As the car drove through the gates, the security guards at the entrance greeted them with respect. The car stopped, and several house staff came running to help. Maya stepped out slowly, her eyes taking in everything. The shining glass windows, the green garden that looked like something from a painting. She had never seen anything like it in her life. Nathan's mother turned to her. "Come inside, dear. You must be hungry." Inside the house was even more breathtaking than the outside. The floors sparkled, the air smelled of roses and warm bread. Golden afternoon light streamed in through the tall windows. Nathan led them into the dining room where a table was already set with large plates of steaming food. "Please sit," he said. Maya hesitated at the door. "Sir, But Nathan's mother gently guided her to a chair with a kind smile. As they began to eat, the older woman turned to Maya. "Tell us about yourself, child." Maya looked down at her plate. Talking about her past was never easy, but something about their kindness made her open up. "My parents died in a road accident when I was 15, she began softly. "After that, I went to live with my uncle's family, but they were not kind people. They said terrible things about me. They called me a curse to the family. And one day, they put me out of the house." Nathan's mother drew in a sharp breath. "Oh, my dear." Maya took a steady breath and continued. "I was supposed to get married to someone I loved very much, but my uncle found the man and told him lies about me. The man believed those lies and left me. After that, I had no one left. So I came to this city hoping to start a new life. I found work at the trading square carrying people's goods for a small fee. That is how I've been surviving." Nathan's mother reached across the table and held her hand. "You have been through so very much, child, yet you still have such a generous and open heart. You did not let all that pain make you bitter." Maya's eyes filled with tears. "I just try to keep going. I want to give my baby a better life than I had." Nathan had been sitting quietly the whole time, listening to every word. There was something in his expression, deep respect, perhaps even quiet sadness. "You deserve far more than this life of struggle. No one should have to sleep on the streets." Maya shook her head quickly. "I will be all right, sir. I do not need anyone's pity." Nathan smiled gently. "It is not pity, Maya. It is gratitude. You helped my mother when the whole world walked past. I cannot simply send you back to that shed." She looked at him, confused. "What do you mean?" Nathan's mother spoke softly. "My dear, you will stay here with us. You can help around the house if you like, but you will have your own room and enough food to eat. You will never have to sleep outside again." Maya's lips parted slowly. "Live here? In this house?" "Yes," the old woman said with a kind, certain nod. "You are family now." Tears welled up in Maya's eyes. She tried to speak, but no words came out. For so long she had been invisible, just someone that people brushed past or pretended not to see.
and now these strangers were offering her a home. "Thank you," she whispered at last. "I don't know how to thank you enough." Nathan smiled warmly. "You already did when you helped my mother." After dinner, Nathan gave her a tour of the mansion. Room after beautiful room, paintings on the walls, polished floors, soft, warm lighting. He showed her the kitchen, the wide garden, and finally led her to a smaller, comfortable house at the back of the main house. "This will be your place," he said, opening the door. "You can make it your own." Inside, there was a proper bed with a soft mattress, a wardrobe full of space, and a small sitting area with a window that looked out onto the garden. Everything smelled clean and new. Maya touched the edge of the bedsheet with her fingertips, almost as if she needed to make sure it was real. "It is beautiful," she said quietly. "I have never had a bed like this." Nathan smiled. "You do now." He handed her a small mobile phone. "You can use this to call us if you need anything." Maya held the phone like it was the most precious thing she had ever been given. "Thank you, sir." Nathan nodded. "Good night, Maya. Rest well." When he left, Maya closed the door slowly and stood in the middle of the room, her heart racing. She walked to the window and looked out at the moonlit garden, glowing softly in the darkness. Then she sat on the bed, placed her hand gently over her belly, and whispered, "You are safe now, my little one. We are finally safe." For the first time in years, Maya fell asleep in a real bed, with warmth in her heart and a feeling she had almost forgotten: hope. When Maya opened her eyes the next morning, soft sunlight poured through the white curtains. For a long moment, she did not move. She just lay there, staring at the ceiling, listening to the birds singing outside. The air smelled of clean sheets and fresh flowers. She turned her head and smiled. A real bed. She had not slept this deeply in years. She sat up slowly, stretched her arms wide, and rubbed her belly. Her baby kicked gently, and she laughed softly. "Good morning, little one," she whispered. "We made it. We are safe." She stood, ran her hand across the smooth wooden table beside her, and still couldn't quite believe it was all real. After taking a warm shower, something she had not felt in many months, she dressed in one of the simple, soft gowns that Nathan's mother had placed in the wardrobe for her. It smelled faintly of lavender. When she stepped out of her room, warm morning light flooded the hallway. Downstairs, she found Nathan's mother arranging fresh flowers in a tall vase. The older woman looked up and smiled the moment she saw Maya. "Good morning, my dear. You are up early." Maya smiled shyly. "I could not sleep any longer. The bed was too comfortable." They both laughed, and Maya instinctively reached for a broom standing nearby. "Let me help you, ma'am." Nathan's mother waved her hand. "Oh no, you are a guest here." But Maya shook her head firmly. "Please, I want to. I am used to working." The woman looked at her with fond eyes. "All right then, we will do it together." And so they did. Maya dusted the shelves, while the older woman arranged the bookshelves. They chatted as they worked, talking about food, about life, about the little things that made them laugh. By the time they were done, the sitting room looked beautiful, and they both sat down to rest in comfortable chairs. "You have such a gentle spirit, Maya. No wonder God brought you into our lives." Maya smiled. "You remind me of my mother. She was kind like you." The older woman reached out and squeezed her hand. "Then perhaps I was meant to be here for you, too." For a moment, neither of them spoke. They sat in the kind of quiet that feels full rather than empty. They were still talking warmly when footsteps echoed from the hallway. Nathan appeared, dressed neatly for the office, his briefcase in one hand and a small smile on his lips. "Good morning," he greeted them both. "Good morning, son," his mother replied. "Breakfast is almost ready." Maya nodded politely. "Good morning, sir." Nathan smiled at her. "Maya, please stop calling me sir. Just Nathan is fine." She hesitated for a moment. "All right, Nathan." The name felt a little strange to say, but he didn't mind at all. As they talked briefly about the day ahead, Nathan's mother noticed quietly how relaxed his son looked. It had been a very long time since she had seen him smile this easily in the morning. Later that morning, after Nathan left for work, Maya and his mother decided to tidy up the living room together, even though it didn't really need cleaning. They laughed over small things and shared stories from their pasts. They were so lost in cheerful conversation that they didn't hear the front door open. A sharp voice suddenly broke through the warmth of the room. "What is going on here? Why is no one working?" Maya turned quickly. A tall woman stood in the doorway, beautiful and very well dressed, wearing a fitted emerald green dress and pointed heels. Her face was sharp with irritation. Maya blinked, startled. "I'm sorry, ma'am." "Do not call me ma'am. Who are you? Why are you just sitting here? And you," she turned towards Nathan's mother with a frown, "you should not be sitting around either." Maya froze, unsure what to say. She tried to explain, but the woman's voice only grew louder. "You workers are all the same," she continued, waving her hand in the air. "Lazy and disrespectful. I have no patience for it." "Please," Maya said quickly. "This is Nathan's mother." But before she could finish, the woman cut her off sharply. "Do not lie to me. Do you think I don't know who I am speaking to?" The insult hung in the air like a sharp slap. Just then, Nathan walked into the room, drawn by the loud noise. His eyes went wide at the scene before him. His girlfriend, Victoria, was shouting at his mother and at Maya. "Victoria," he said in a firm, sharp voice, "what on earth is happening here?" She turned, startled, but tried quickly to regain herself. "Oh, Nathan, you should have told me you had visitors. I just came by to collect the money you promised me for the charity dinner this weekend, but I found your workers sitting here doing nothing." Nathan's jaw tightened. "That is not a worker, Victoria. That is my mother." The color drained from Victoria's face, but her pride refused to let her back down. She gave a small, uncomfortable laugh. "Well, how was I supposed to know? She looks—" She stopped herself, but then muttered under her breath, "Nothing like the kind of women I'm used to meeting." "Apologize," Nathan said firmly. "I beg your pardon?" "You insulted my mother. Apologize to her now." Victoria crossed her arms. "You cannot be serious. I didn't mean it that way." "Victoria," Nathan repeated, his tone leaving no room for argument. She huffed and flipped her hair. "Fine, I'm sorry." But her voice was empty of any real feeling, and everyone in the room heard it clearly. Nathan's mother said nothing. She simply stood with her dignity fully intact and gave Maya a quiet, reassuring look. But Victoria was not finished. "Are you going to give me that money or not? I didn't come all this way for drama." Nathan took a slow, measured breath. "We will talk about it later," he said coldly. She frowned. "You promised." "I said later," he repeated, his voice turning quiet but firm. Frustrated, Victoria grabbed her designer handbag. "You cannot treat me like this, Nathan." She turned and stormed out of the house, her heels clicking hard and fast against the floor. The door slammed shut behind her. Silence filled the room. Maya stood frozen, not knowing what to say. Nathan's mother shook her head slowly and sighed. "My son, who is that woman?" Nathan rubbed his forehead. "She is someone I thought I understood." That evening, the house was calm again. The tension from earlier still floated in the air, but Nathan tried to shake it off. At dinner, his mother and Maya had together prepared a warm, delicious meal, a rich vegetable soup with soft rolls of bread and fresh fruit juice. The table glowed with warmth and gentle conversation. As Maya was about to excuse herself to eat in her room, Nathan stopped her. "No, Maya, sit with us. You are part of this family now." Maya hesitated. "I don't want to get in the way." "You are not in the way at all," his mother kindly said. "You belong here." So Maya sat, and for the first time in a very long while, she truly felt like she belonged somewhere.
As they ate, Nathan's mother glanced at her son. "That woman from earlier, is she truly someone you see a future with?" Nathan looked down at his plate for a moment. "I do not know anymore, Mom. She does not seem to value kindness or how you treat other people." He paused. "I know," he admitted quietly.
Deep inside, he had already known for a long time that Victoria was not the kind of woman he wanted to build a life with, but hearing his mother say it out loud made the truth sharper and clearer than ever before. Later that night, Maya returned to her room and sat by the window, watching the garden lights glow softly in the dark. She could still hear the echo of Victoria's harsh words in her mind, but she tried hard to push them away. She thought about how Nathan had defended his mother without hesitation, how calmly and clearly he had spoken, how his eyes had softened when he looked at Maya afterward. For a girl who had known mostly cruelty and rejection in her life, that quiet moment of being seen and protected had meant everything. Maya placed her hand over her belly and whispered, "Maybe some people really do have good hearts." Somewhere in the mansion, Nathan sat alone in his study, replaying the same memory. The way Maya had stood up and quietly tried to defend his mother had shown him more about her character than anything else could have. And though neither of them had spoken a single word about it, something new and gentle had begun to quietly grow between them. The next morning, bright sunlight poured into the dining room, spreading a soft golden warmth across the marble floor. Maya was already awake, wearing a simple sky-blue dress, carefully setting the breakfast table. The smell of warm toast and hot cocoa drifted through the air. Nathan came downstairs, dressed neatly for another day at the office. He paused for just a second at the doorway, watching her. The quiet, steady way she moved, the soft way she hummed a little tune under her breath. There was something peaceful about her being there, something that made the whole house feel warmer and more alive. "Good morning," he said, smiling at her. Maya turned quickly. "Oh, good morning, sir." He laughed lightly. "Nathan," he corrected. "You will get used to it one day, I promise." Nathan's mother walked in at that moment, wearing her usual bright smile. "Breakfast is ready," she announced cheerfully. They all sat down together. The mood was light again after yesterday's unpleasantness, but beneath the calm, each of them was quietly thinking about what had happened. Nathan's mother was still disappointed by Victoria's behavior. Maya was trying her best to forget the insults, and Nathan could not stop comparing the two women in his mind. One filled with pride, the other filled with quiet grace. As they ate, his mother spoke up. "Son, about that woman," Nathan sighed gently. "I know, Mom. I plan to speak with her again today. I just need to hear her side." Jane kept her eyes on her plate, not wanting to intrude. His mother nodded. "All right, but remember, actions speak louder than any explanation." Nathan smiled faintly. "You are right, as always." He finished his breakfast, took his car keys, and left for the office. At work, the day moved quickly. Nathan sat through meetings and signed documents, but his mind was not fully present. He kept returning to the thought of Maya, the way she had stepped forward to protect his mother, the warmth in her eyes. When his last meeting ended, he leaned back in his chair, took a long breath, and picked up his phone. He dialed Victoria's number. She answered quickly, her tone already impatient. "Nathan, where have you been? I have been waiting for you to call all day." "I have been busy," he replied evenly. "We need to talk about yesterday." She laughed lightly. "You're not still upset, are you? I didn't mean anything by it." Nathan's voice stayed calm but firm. "Victoria, you were disrespectful to my mother. That was not a small misunderstanding. It was plain rudeness." She sighed loudly. "Oh, please, Nathan, you're making too much of this. You should have warned me your mother was visiting. You know how I like to look my best when meeting family. That doesn't excuse the way you spoke to her." "Fine," she said quickly. "If it will make you feel better, I'll come by this evening and apologize properly. We can all have dinner together and start fresh." Nathan hesitated. "Are you sure?" "Of course," she said in a rehearsed, sweet tone. "I'll be perfect, I promise. I'll charm her." "All right, I'll let them know to expect you." Before she hung up, she added in a playful voice, "And Nathan, could you send me a little money for a new dress? I want to look wonderful tonight." He frowned. "I sent you money 3 days ago." "Yes, but that was different. Tonight is special, is it not?"
He didn't reply right away. This had become a pattern he recognized too well. Every promise, every apology, always attached to a price. But instead of arguing, he sighed quietly. "Fine, I'll send it." "Thank you, darling," she said, her voice suddenly bright again. "See you tonight." When the call ended, Nathan sat very still, staring at his phone. Something deep inside him ached, a quiet but clear realization that perhaps he had been trying for too long to hold together something that was already completely broken. Back at the mansion, the house was full of warm, delicious smells. Nathan's mother and Maya were in the kitchen together, laughing as they cooked. Maya had a streak of flour on her cheek and was trying to wipe it off when the older woman chuckled warmly. "Leave it," she said. "It looks charming on you." Maya blushed. "You are teasing me." "I am absolutely serious," she laughed. "My son will be home soon, and I want him to see how much happiness you bring to this house." Maya smiled shyly, but said nothing. They cooked a rich pot of stew, golden roasted chicken, and a sweet fruit dessert. The table looked like something from a fancy restaurant. By the time evening came, everything was ready, including Maya's growing nerves. Nathan arrived first, greeted them both warmly, and quietly told his mother, "She is coming tonight. She says she wants to apologize." His mother nodded. "We shall see if she truly means it."
A few minutes later, tires crunched on the gravel outside. Victoria appeared at the door, wearing an elegant silver gown and heels that tapped sharply on the floor. Her makeup was flawless, and her perfume was strong enough to fill the whole hallway. She smiled, but it was not the kind of smile that reached her eyes. "Good evening," she said smoothly. "I hope I am not too late." Nathan's mother nodded politely. "Right on time." Victoria's eyes moved quickly to Maya, and her expression changed instantly. "Oh, you again." Maya straightened her back and kept her voice steady. "Good evening, ma'am." Victoria's lips curved slightly upward, but the warmth was completely false. "I did not realize you would be joining us at the dinner table." "She helped prepare the entire meal," Nathan said in a calm, clear voice. "She will eat with us." Victoria gave a soft, polished laugh. "How lovely." Then, turning to Nathan's mother, she added with a sweet but cutting tone, "I suppose that is your idea, is it not? Very humble of you." Nathan's mother kept her patience, saying nothing. They all sat down, and for a while the only sound was the quiet clinking of cutlery. Victoria picked at her food, visibly uncomfortable in the warm, simple atmosphere. After a few minutes, Nathan's mother said pleasantly, "So, Victoria, how have you been keeping yourself?" Victoria smiled and leaned back a little. "Busy, as always. You know how demanding city life is. Events, appearances, keeping everything looking just right." She laughed lightly and tossed her hair. "It is exhausting being me sometimes." Maya kept her eyes on her plate, chewing quietly. Nathan's mother smiled with patience. "I see. And what kind of work do you do, dear?" "Oh, I do not work," Victoria said carelessly. "Nathan takes care of everything for me." Nathan shifted in his chair slightly. "Victoria," she cut him off smoothly. "He insists on it, of course. He hates to see me stressed over little things." The table fell quiet again. Maya could feel the tension growing heavier, but she kept her head down. A few minutes later, Victoria's gaze settled on Maya once more. "So Maya, that is your name. You help out in the house here." "Yes, ma'am," Maya answered. Victoria's tone turned just sharp enough to sting. "Well, I suppose everyone must earn their keep somehow. It is very nice that you have found a way to be useful." Nathan looked up immediately. "Victoria, that is enough." "What? I am simply making conversation?" "No," he said firmly. "You are being disrespectful again." Her eyes widened. "Excuse me?" "My mother invited you here tonight so that we could make peace," he said quietly.
Not so you could insult someone who is a guest under my roof. Victoria set her fork down hard. So now you are defending her, a hired cleaner. Nathan pushed his chair back and stood up slowly. His voice was calm, but heavy with disappointment. This is not going to work, Victoria. Not anymore. She let out a short, bitter laugh. You are ending things with me because of her, this girl? This is not about her, he said. This is about you. The way you see other people, the way you speak to them, the way you treat those who have less than you. I cannot live with that. Her eyes flashed with anger. You will regret this, Nathan. You think some charity case can take my place? He did not answer. He simply walked away from the table. Victoria grabbed her bag, her face twisted with wounded pride. Fine, enjoy your new little family, she said coldly. The door slammed behind her. The silence that followed was heavy, but somehow peaceful at the same time. Nathan's mother looked at Maya, who sat very still, unsure what to say. I'm sorry, Maya whispered. I didn't mean to cause all this trouble. Nathan's mother reached across and took her hand firmly. Don't ever apologize for someone else's bad behavior, dear. When Nathan came back to the table a few minutes later, he looked tired but calm. It's over, he said simply. His mother nodded. You made the right choice, my son. Maya looked at him quietly, her heart beating fast. She said nothing, but the way he met his eyes with steadiness and kindness made something deep inside her flutter, not out of romance, but out of pure, honest respect. That night, after the house went quiet, Maya sat by her window again, watching the stars. For the first time, she allowed herself to imagine that perhaps, just perhaps, she truly belonged in this place. And somewhere in his room, Nathan lay awake too, thinking about the quiet, warm-hearted girl who had changed the feeling of his entire home simply by being herself and choosing kindness every single day. The next morning, Nathan arrived at his office earlier than usual. He needed the stillness of the quiet room. The past few days had been full of tension. The arguments, the uncomfortable dinners, the way Victoria had spoken to his mother and to Maya. He sat behind his desk and tried to focus on the work in front of him, but his thoughts kept drifting back to the night before. The look on Maya's face when Victoria had insulted her stayed in his mind. It was not anger that troubled him. It was the sad, quiet way she had simply accepted it, as if she was used to being treated as less. The sound of the office door opening pulled him out of his thoughts. He looked up. Victoria stood in the doorway, dressed in expensive clothes and holding her designer bag in front of her like a shield. Her face was a mixture of irritation and brittle pride. "What are you doing here?" he asked, already feeling where the conversation was heading. She shut the door behind her and crossed her arms. "We need to talk, and I need money." Nathan frowned. "I sent you money just 3 days ago." Victoria rolled her eyes. "Yes, and I spent it. You know how costly everything is these days. I found a beautiful handbag I want for the event this weekend. It would go perfectly with my outfit." He stared at her, disbelief plain on his face. "You came all the way here to ask me for more money after everything that happened last night?" She pretended not to understand. "What are you talking about? That dinner thing again?"
The way you spoke to my mother, he said quietly. The way you spoke to Maya. You were cruel, Victoria. Victoria scoffed. Oh, please, Nathan. Are we still on that? I did not mean anything by it. He said firmly, You embarrassed me in my own home. You insulted my mother. Her tone turned sharp and cold. Your mother should not have allowed that homeless girl to sit at the same table as us. What did you expect me to do? Pretend that was normal? Nathan's expression hardened. Her name is Maya, and she is not homeless anymore.
Victoria laughed coldly. Oh, right, the girl from the streets that you brought into your mansion. I still cannot believe you did that. She is probably using you, Nathan. Can you not see it? He stood up slowly from his chair. Enough, Victoria. But she was not finished. What has happened to you? You were defending a poor stranger over me? This is not about her, he said, his voice carrying quiet weight. This is about you and the kind of person you have allowed yourself to become. You are too proud, too unkind, too dismissive of anyone who does not match your idea of worth. I have tried to look past it for a long time, but I cannot keep doing that. Her eyes went wide. Are you breaking up with me again? Yes, he said softly, but without hesitation. It is truly over, Victoria. She laughed bitterly. Is it because of her, that girl from the market? He looked at her steadily. It is because of everything. Because I am tired of your pride, tired of your coldness toward others, and tired of pretending that any of that is love. For a long moment, Victoria stared at him, shocked that he had finally said those words out loud. Then her face twisted. You will regret this, she hissed. You will see, Nathan. He did not respond. He sat back down and picked up his pen. The conversation was over. Fuming, Victoria seized her bag and walked out of the office, slamming the door so hard the sound rang out like a thunderclap. Nathan closed his eyes and took a long, slow breath. For the first time in many months, he felt free. And though that freedom came with a quiet sadness, it also came with something he had almost forgotten, a sense of peace. That evening, the sun was low and golden when Nathan arrived home. He spotted Maya in the garden, sitting on the stone bench near the small fountain, holding a book in her lap and humming a quiet tune. Her hair caught the evening light, and she looked peaceful. Maya, he called gently. She turned and smiled. Welcome home. He walked over. Do you have a few minutes? I would like to talk. She nodded and closed the book. Of course. They sat down together. For a while, Nathan did not speak. The gentle sound of water from the fountain filled the space between them. Finally, he said, I want to apologize for everything that happened the other night. You did not deserve any of that. Maya shook her head. You do not need to apologize. I'm not upset. But I am, he said. You were kind to my mother when no one else was. You should never have been spoken to that way. I should have stopped it sooner. She looked at him gently. You did what you could. I have had to learn not to let people's words break me. Nathan smiled faintly. You are truly strong, Maya. She laughed softly. I have just learned how to survive, that is all. Their conversation drifted then, naturally and easily, away from the heaviness and into lighter places. They talked about music, about their favorite foods, and funny things that had happened that day. Nathan told her stories from his childhood, how he used to climb the trees in the garden and get into trouble, and Maya laughed, a sound so open and real that it made him smile more genuinely than he had in weeks. When she spoke about her baby, her whole face brightened. She told him she was sometimes frightened of the future, but also full of hope. I want my child to grow up knowing kindness, not wealth or titles, just kindness in the feeling of being safe. Nathan nodded slowly. That is exactly what this world needs more of. The sky grew darker and stars began to appear one by one. The moon climbed slowly above the mansion and bathed the garden in soft silver light. Still they kept talking. Hours slipped past like minutes. Then a gentle voice reached them from the doorway. You two are still out here, aren't they? They turned to see Nathan's mother standing there, smiling with arms crossed in amusement. It's almost midnight. Maya gasped and stood up quickly. I'm so sorry, ma'am. We had no idea how late it had gotten. Nathan's mother chuckled warmly. It's all right, dear, but the baby needs rest, and so do you. Come on now. Maya smiled shyly. "Good night, ma'am. Good night, Nathan." "Good night," he said softly, as he watched her walk back inside. Nathan's mother turned back and looked at his son with a knowing gleam in her eyes. "So, you have stolen my friend now, have you?" Nathan laughed quietly. "She is just very easy to talk to, that's all." His mother smiled. "We shall see." When she went inside, Nathan stayed in the garden a little longer. The fountain shimmered under the moonlight, and the night air was cool and calm. He could not stop thinking about how easy it had felt to simply be himself around Maya, how talking to her made everything lighter. From that quiet night onward, something changed between them. It wasn't planned, and they never spoke of it directly, but their bond began to grow in a natural, unhurried way. After dinner each evening, Nathan would often find himself drifting into the kitchen just to help Maya wash the dishes. They would end up talking for an hour or two, sometimes about deep things like dreams and old hurts, and sometimes about small, easy things like the weather or a funny moment from the day. Nathan's mother noticed every time. She would walk past and see them laughing together and smile quietly to herself. "That boy has finally found his peace," she would whisper softly. Days turned into weeks, and the friendship between Nathan and Maya deepened steadily. They began to share their dreams with each other. Hers was to raise her child in a safe, loving home. His was to build a life that felt full of real purpose and meaning.
And then, one calm and quiet night, as they sat again in the garden under the bright full moon, their conversation paused. The world around them seemed to slow down completely. Maya looked up at the sky, her hair catching the silver light. Nathan watched her for a moment, his heart full of a feeling he could not quite find words for. "Maya," he said softly. She turned toward him. "Yes?" He hesitated for just a moment, then leaned gently closer. She did not pull away. Their eyes met, quiet and uncertain, but full of honest feeling. And then he kissed her. It was not rushed, it was not dramatic, it was soft and sincere, full of everything that had been quietly building between them for weeks. When they pulled apart, Maya looked down, her cheeks warm. Nathan smiled. "I'm sorry, I just could not help it." She smiled shyly. "You do not have to be sorry." For a moment, they both sat there under the silver moonlight, smiling quietly to themselves. Two hearts that had finally found comfort and belonging in each other's company. And though neither of them said it out loud, they both knew clearly that this was the beginning of something new and real and good. Morning sunlight streamed gently through the wide glass windows of the mansion. Birds were singing in the garden outside, and the warm smell of freshly baked bread filled the house. Maya woke up smiling. Her heart felt lighter than it had in a very long time. She ran her hand softly over her belly and whispered, "We are okay, my little one." She thought about the night before, the soft glow of the moon, the way Nathan had looked at her, the quiet warmth of his kiss. It had felt like something out of a story, but it was real. She found herself replaying it again and again, and each time her heart fluttered. After getting dressed, she walked to the living room to begin her morning chores. The house was bright and peaceful. She had just started dusting the shelves when Nathan's mother walked in, humming a cheerful little tune. "Good morning, ma'am," Maya greeted. The older woman grinned brightly. "Good morning, my dear." Then she paused, her eyes sparkling with mischief. "So, tell me, how long have you been keeping secrets from me?" Maya blinked. "Secrets? Oh, do not play innocent with me," Nathan's mother teased, setting her cup of tea on the table. "I saw you two last night in the garden, my son and my dear friend, sitting under the moonlight together, whispering like it's a scene from a love story." Maya's cheeks turned deep pink instantly. "Oh, no, ma'am, it was not like that. We were just talking." "Just talking?" the woman laughed. "Then why did he kiss you?" Maya gasped softly. "You saw that?"
"Of course I did," she said with a playful, satisfied smile. "This is my house. I see everything." Maya buried her face in her hands. "I don't even know what to say." Nathan's mother laughed warmly and touched her shoulder. "You don't have to say anything. I'm happy, dear. My son has not smiled the way he smiles now in a very long time. You bring real peace into this house." Maya smiled shyly. "He has been very kind to me, to both of us." The woman nodded. "And he truly means it. You are special to him, Maya." Before Maya could reply, they heard footsteps coming down the hallway. Nathan appeared, dressed in a crisp white shirt and looking cheerful. "Good morning, ladies," Nathan said. "Good morning, my son," his mother replied sweetly. Then she added, "Or shall I say, my little thief?" Nathan stopped mid-step, confused. "What?" She crossed her arms dramatically. "I stole my friend." Maya covered her face, hiding her laughter. Nathan looked between them, understanding exactly what his mother meant. "Oh no, not this first thing in the morning, Mom." She laughed. "Don't mom me. I warned you that you were spending far too much time with her." Nathan shook his head, chuckling. "All right, you caught me." His mother winked. "Good. Now that we've settled that, sit down and have breakfast before you rush off." Nathan sat down, still smiling, and Maya brought him a plate of food. Their eyes met briefly as she set it down, and for just a moment, the whole morning seemed to pause gently around them. When he finished eating, he kissed his mother on the cheek, looked at Maya, and said, "Take good care of yourself today." Maya nodded. "I will." Then he was gone, his car disappearing down the long driveway as the morning sunlight turned everything gold. The hours passed peacefully. Maya spent the morning helping in the kitchen and then folding clean laundry. She hummed as she worked, her belly full and heavy now, but her spirit feeling lighter than it had in years. Nathan's mother joined her later, and together they arranged fresh flowers in vases and prepared lunch. They talked and laughed about baby names, imagining together what the child might look like. "Maybe he'll have Nathan's eyes," the woman said with a smile. Maya laughed shyly. "Maybe. I just want him to be healthy." The woman placed a gentle hand on her shoulder. "He will be, my dear. You have given him love already, and love is the most powerful thing in the world." Maya nodded, deeply moved by those words. By late afternoon, the sky outside had turned gray and heavy. Thunder rolled softly in the far distance. Rain began slowly, tapping against the windows, then quickly grew harder. Maya stood near the window, watching the rain fall, her hands resting on her belly. She felt a sudden sharp pain in her lower back and winced. She took a low breath. It was not the first time she had felt discomfort in recent days, but this was different. This was stronger. She held on to the window frame and braced herself. Another wave of pain came, this one sharper and longer. "Ma'am? Ma'am!" Nathan's mother came running into the room, alarmed. "Maya, what is wrong?" "My stomach. It hurts so much. I think it's time." The older woman's eyes went wide. "Oh, goodness, it's happening." Without wasting a second, she called out loudly for the driver. "Get the car out now!" Maya tried to stay calm, breathing the way the doctor had shown her at her last checkup, but the contractions were coming faster and sharper. Her knees felt weak.
"It is all right, dear," Nathan's mother said firmly, wrapping a strong arm around her. "We are going to the hospital right now. Just hold on." Rain poured heavily outside as they helped Maya carefully into the car. The driver sped through the wet streets, tires spraying water as thunder rumbled and cracked in the distance. Nathan's mother held Maya's hand tightly the whole way, whispering prayers and encouragement. "You are so strong, my dear. You are going to meet your baby very soon." Meanwhile, Nathan was finishing up a late meeting at the office when his phone began buzzing non-stop on the table. He frowned and answered. "Nathan?" His mother's voice came through, breathless and quick. "It is Maya. The baby is coming." He shot up from his chair so fast it scraped the floor. "What? Where are you?" "At the hospital. Hurry!"
He did not wait for another word. He grabbed his jacket and keys and ran out of the office, barely pausing to acknowledge the startled looks from his staff. The only thing filling his mind was Maya. Her smile, her laugh, her quiet bravery. The drive to the hospital felt like the longest journey of his life. When he arrived, he ran through the long corridors until he spotted his mother pacing near the entrance to the maternity ward. "Mom," he called. She turned to him with relief flooding her face. "You made it!" "How is she?" he asked urgently. "They just took her in. She's in labor now." Nathan's heart was pounding. He could hear distant voices and movement from behind the closed delivery room door. He wanted nothing more than to go in and be beside her, but he could not. So he waited. He paced. He prayed. He watched the clock. Hours passed like a very long and anxious dream. The rain outside slowed to a quiet drizzle. The hallway around them grew still. Then the delivery room door finally opened, and a nurse came out, wearing a wide, warm smile. "Congratulations," she said. "It is a healthy baby boy." Nathan went completely still. "A boy?" The nurse nodded. "Yes, mother and baby are both doing very well." Nathan's eyes stinged with sudden tears. He turned to his mother, who was already crying with joy, her hands pressed to her cheeks. She hugged him tightly. "You are going to be such a wonderful father, my son." He smiled, barely able to find his voice. "Can we see her?" "In just a minute," the nurse said. When they entered the room, Maya was lying on the bed, tired and glowing at the same time. She held a tiny baby wrapped in a soft white blanket. Nathan walked slowly toward her, almost afraid to breathe too loud. "Hey," he said, softly. Maya looked up at him, her eyes full of tears and happiness all at once. "He's here," she whispered. Nathan sat gently beside her. "He's perfect." She looked down at the baby and smiled. "He looks just like you." Nathan laughed softly. "That is the best thing anyone has ever said to me." He reached out and gently touched the baby's tiny hand. The baby's little fingers curled around his finger. Something shifted deep inside Nathan's chest, a warmth so strong and so sudden that it brought real tears to his eyes. Maya watched him, her heart swelling with gratitude she could not fully put into words. After all the pain she had known, all the loneliness, all the long, hard days of struggle, this single moment made every bit of it worth something. Nathan's mother entered the room quietly, her face shining with pure joy. She leaned down and kissed Maya's forehead. "You did it, my brave dear. You are both safe." Maya smiled through exhaustion and tears. "Thank you for being here with me." The older woman touched her cheek gently. "No, thank you, child. You brought love and light into all of our lives." Nathan looked from his mother to Maya and then to the tiny new baby. He had never in his life felt completely whole. "Welcome to the world, little one. You are our miracle." Maya smiled through her tears. "I already know his name," she said softly. Nathan looked up, curious. "You do?" She nodded. "Samuel. It means heard by God." Nathan's eyes softened. "Samuel. That is perfect." As the rain outside finally stopped and morning sunlight began to slowly return, the three of them sat together in quiet, grateful joy. A new family, born out of kindness, courage, and a love that had found its way through every storm and shadow. Months passed, and the mansion grew livelier than it had ever been before. Baby Samuel had become a cheerful, bright-eyed little boy who loved to laugh whenever Nathan lifted him high above his head and zoomed him through the air. Maya often watched them from the garden bench, her heart overflowing with gratitude she could never fully put into words. Every morning she still whispered a quiet thank you for the roof above her head, for the peace in her chest, and for the man who had turned simple kindness into something that looked and felt very much like love. Nathan's mother adored Samuel and treated Maya as the daughter she had never had. The house that had once felt quiet and a little too empty now rang with laughter, soft music playing in the afternoons, and the bright sound of a baby's giggle echoing through the halls. One warm, golden evening, Nathan asked Maya to walk with him through the garden. The roses were fully blooming, and the air smelled sweetly of jasmine. Samuel was fast asleep in his grandmother's arms inside, leaving them a rare and quiet moment alone together.
As they walked slowly along the garden path, Maya smiled. "I still cannot believe this is my life," she said softly. "Sometimes I wake up in the middle of the night, afraid it is all just a dream." Nathan stopped walking and turned to face her. "It is not a dream," he said gently. "It is our story, and I never want it to end." He reached into his jacket pocket, his hand trembling slightly as he went down on one knee. Maya gasped, her hand flying to her mouth, her eyes filling with tears. "Maya," he began, his voice full of feeling, "you came into my life at a time when I did not even know what real love was supposed to look like. You changed everything around you, my home, my heart, my sense of what truly matters. You showed me what kindness actually means. I do not want a single day of my life to go by without you in it. Will you marry me?" For a moment, Maya could not speak at all. Her heart was racing, her hands were shaking, and tears were streaming freely down her face. Then she nodded, quickly and firmly. "Yes," she whispered. "Yes, Nathan." He slipped the ring onto her finger, and she threw her arms around him. They both laughed and cried at the same time as the setting sun painted the whole sky in shades of pink and gold. From the wide balcony above, Nathan's mother watched and clapped her hands together in pure delight. "Finally," she called down playfully, "I was beginning to think I would have to propose on your behalf." They all laughed, the sound lifting through the whole garden like music carried on the evening breeze. A few weeks later, the wedding took place in the garden beneath a beautiful canopy of white roses. Family, friends, and warmly smiling guests filled every corner. Maya wore a simple ivory gown that caught the light and shimmered softly as she walked. Nathan could not take his eyes off her for a single moment. When the officiant said the words, "You may now kiss your bride," Nathan leaned forward, his heart filled to the brim with joy. As they kissed, baby Samuel clapped his tiny hands from his grandmother's arms, and everyone around them laughed and cheered. For Maya, who once fell asleep under a leaking roof, wondering if God had forgotten her, this moment felt like the most beautiful miracle she could have ever imagined. She had found a home, she had found a family, and she had found a forever kind of love. Not because she was powerful or wealthy or perfectly put together, but because on one ordinary afternoon, she had seen an old woman sitting alone and had chosen out of pure goodness not to walk away. And that one small act of kindness had quietly, steadily changed the entire story of her life.